If you assume that betrayal always begins with a choice, then make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Tap the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, because the stories we tell here don't shout, they whisper. They settle into your thoughts, and they stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Today's story isn't about cheating. It isn't about villains or heroes. It's about the quiet spaces between people, the moments no one warns you about, the kind of moments that don't explode but shift everything. Stay with me because this story doesn't rush, and neither should you. Anna had always believed happiness came in predictable shapes. A safe home, familiar routines, a husband who never raised his voice and never broke a promise. From the outside, her life looked complete, almost enviable. A marriage built on reliability, days that followed a rhythm, nights that ended without conflict. Michael, her husband, was the kind of man people trusted instantly. He woke up early every morning without complaint. He ironed his shirts with care, as if precision itself was a form of respect. Bills were paid ahead of time. Appointments were remembered. Birthdays, anniversaries, small details. Nothing slipped past. Him. Every morning, without fail, he Anna's forehead before leaving for work. Every evening, he asked how her day had been. Even when exhausted, even when distracted, Michael was not dramatic. He was dependable, and Anna admired him for that. She respected him. She cared for him. She knew without question that he would never hurt her intentionally. But somewhere along the way, so quietly, she couldn't pinpoint when it became clear that admiration and desire were not the same thing. That at first the change was subtle. Conversations that once wandered through dreams and possibilities slowly narrowed into logistics. What needed to be bought? What needed to be fixed? What needed to be scheduled? They still talked. They just didn't reach each other anymore. Laughter faded into polite smiles. Silences grew longer, not uncomfortable, but empty. Michael wasn't cold. He wasn't distant. He was simply steady, endlessly steady. And Anna began to notice what steadiness lacked. Late at night, she would lie beside him, listening to the even rhythm of his. The sound was comforting, familiar. But as she stared at the ceiling, a question would quietly surface. When did replace fire? She never asked it out loud. She barely admitted it to herself. Instead, it showed up in small, almost embarrassing ways. She lingered in front of the mirror longer than necessary, ran her fingers over her own arm, her waist, checking almost unconsciously whether she still felt alive. She tried to remember the way Michael used to look at her, as if the room faded when she entered. She wasn't unhappy. That was the hardest part. She was simply unfulfilled, and admitting that felt like a betrayal of its own. And it was a quiet Friday evening when Michael mentioned it. They were finishing dinner. Nothing special, just another familiar night. Michael wiped his mouth, leaned back in his chair, and said casually, "Oh, by the way, Darius is in town. My old college friend. I invited him over tomorrow night." Anna nodded politely. She'd heard the name before, always attached to stories from Michael's past. Darius, the reckless one, the confident one, the friend who dragged Michael into adventures he'd never choose on his own. In Anna's mind, he became another version of Michael's acquaintances. Pleasant, forgettable, temporary. She didn't give it another thought. She would later realize how wrong that assumption was. The next evening, the doorbell rang. Anna walked toward the door with no expectations, just routine. But the moment she opened it, something shifted. Darius stood there with an ease that couldn't be rehearsed. Tall, broad-shouldered, a relaxed confidence that didn't demand attention, but commanded it anyway. His eyes held. And something else? A quiet spark of curiosity. "Anna," he said, smiling. Michael wasn't exaggerating. "You're even more beautiful in person." The words were simple, not crude, not forced, and yet they landed like a spark in dry air. Anna thanked him politely and stepped aside as Michael rushed forward, pulling his old friend into a loud embrace. Their laughter filled the hallway, stories tumbling over each other, memories resurfacing. Anna returned to the kitchen, composed, calm, But something about Darius lingered like a presence that didn't disappear when you looked away. Throughout dinner, Anna noticed things she hadn't planned to notice. The way Darius listened, truly listened when she spoke. The way his gaze followed her movements without being intrusive. The way he seemed aware of her in a room where Michael barely noticed details anymore. When she placed dishes on the table, his attention lingered. When she laughed, his smile responded instantly. Once their hands brushed as they reached for the same plate. The contact was brief, accidental, but Anna felt it sharp and sudden. Michael didn't. He was too busy reliving college stories, animated in a way she hadn't seen in months. And that realization unsettled her more than the touch itself. Later, as Michael and Darius moved to the living room with drinks, Anna stayed behind to clean. Water ran, plates clinked softly. She sensed someone in the doorway before he spoke. "You've been quiet tonight," Darius said gently. "Just letting you two catch up," she replied, keeping her eyes on the sink. He stepped closer. Not threatening, not invasive, just present. "Funny," he said quietly. "It like you're the only one I noticed." Her hands froze in the water. The words weren't wrong. They weren't inappropriate, but they carried weight. And Anna didn't step away. When she finally turned, he was close, but respectful. Close enough for the air to different. "Michael doesn't see it," he murmured. "The way your eyes speak before you do." Her heart stumbled. She should have ended the conversation. She didn't. He didn't touch her again, didn't cross a line. He simply held her gaze long enough for her to remember something she thought she'd lost. That night, Michael fell asleep instantly. Anna didn't. She lay there staring into the dark, replaying every glance, every pause, every moment that hadn't technically meant anything, yet meant everything. Nothing had happened, and yet something had. Something inside her had stirred, and down she knew if Darius came back, her life would no longer remain untouched.